Peter said that he would die before he would leave Jesus, and not long after he was denying him 3 times with curses vehemently. One would assume filled with fear as Jesus had just been taken into custody. We're going to go a little ahead, and at this point in the scripture, Jesus has been resurrected. We are in John 21 and verse 15, and they had finished eating a breakfast together. So when they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And he said to him, "Tend my lambs." He said to him again a second time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And he said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Shepherd my sheep." Verse 17, he said to him the third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Tend my sheep. And truly, truly, I say to you, when you were younger, you used to gird yourself and walk wherever you wished. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will gird you and bring you where you do not wish to go." Now he said this, signifying by what kind of death Peter would glorify God. And after he had spoken this, he said to him, "Follow me." Nice, beautiful scene in the scripture. Again, Jesus has been crucified and has risen from the dead. Prior to this breakfast where Jesus asks these questions, they spot Jesus on the shore, and the rest of the disciples row into shore to meet Jesus, but not Peter. Not Peter. He dives off the boat and swims in, which is very typical of him as we read his character in the scripture. And I wonder if the sort of torment or the anguish of having denied Jesus 3 times is just welling up inside him. And it's striking that Jesus asks him 3 times, "Do you love me?" And finally, Peter says to him, and this is a great, I think, confession of faith, "You know all things." So somewhere in Peter's spirit, I believe he knew that Jesus would forgive him because he loved him. He knew that Jesus knew that he loves him. And yet Jesus asks him 3 times. I don't think coincidentally does he love him. And each time, just with slight variation, Jesus says to him, "Shepherd my sheep," or "Tend my sheep." In other words, I read that as get to work. I'm counting on you. He then goes on to tell Peter that in fact he will die. He will die glorifying God in his death. He will be martyred, which is what he said. Peter said, "I'll die for you." It's interesting, an experience here. A lot of times I feel that I'm not good enough, and in the most real sense, I'm not. But I remember becoming a Christian in just a lot of thoughts flooding into my head about not being good enough or having too far. I remember that thought. I've got too far. I'm too far away from you, Christ. I cannot possibly catch up. I remember thinking that distinctly and just being ashamed of that. And I remember hearing the voice of God, And you might ask me, did I literally hear it? And I would answer sort of, saying, "It's okay. You don't have to catch up. You don't have to catch up." And I would pass that on to anybody, no matter how far you consider yourself or how unworthy for whatever reason. God will take you right where you are if you ask him. And I see that here in his forgiveness of Peter.